So good morning, Sophia. I always get my names muddled up. I want to call you Sonia because I'm talking to a lady called Sonia at the moment, and the S and the A, I'm terrible with names, but welcome, Sophia, to Wise Women Weekdays.
Hi,
Lovely
Karen.
to have you. You're from Sweden?
Yes, I live in Sweden right now. Good morning. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
having me. Yes, I am in Sweden right now.
But you are a Greek lady.
I am from Greece originally. Yes, that's true.
So you've gone from one lovely hot climate to another lovely cooler climate.
The
And
two
you live in
extremes.
America in between to maybe get you neutralized.
Yes.
Sophia, let's just start off. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're on Wise Women Weekdays.
Yes. So, as you said before, prior to coming to Sweden, I was living in the US for a number of years. And that's where I was living when the pandemic broke out a few years ago. And at the time, the restrictions were quite severe in the part of the US that we were living. So my husband and I, my husband is Swedish, we decided to give it a try and move to Sweden, which was open at the time. There were no restrictions and pretty much kind of life was as normal, provided that people were kind of keeping some social distance from each other. So we packed our stuff, we packed the whole family, and we came to Sweden. And the minute we landed, I can tell you it was a summer day, and we land and we thought, okay, let's leave our suitcases at home and just take a walk outside to stretch our legs. So we step outside and we see all these people everywhere. The restaurants are full. People are sitting outside having dinner and having drinks, and the parks were full with children playing. And we were like, hold on a second. What is going on here? And coming from the US, we were quite terrified about being close to people and thinking that if we don't keep a certain distance, bad things will happen to us. And as we started experience life here in Sweden, we started thinking, hold on a second. One of the two, there are two extremes here. So one of the two might be incorrect. Which of the two is incorrect? Why aren't people dying in masses here in Sweden? And I remember at the time, we had to visit the hospital to go and see a doctor, and there were no, they were not overcrowded. They actually had some outdoor facilities, some tents that they had kind of like set up for, to deal with probably, I guess, increasing numbers of unwell people. But they were picking those up. They were moving them away. And that was the summer of 2020, where, in the US, that was kind of the peak of everything. So that made us think. We started thinking, hold on a second, there's something not right here. Who may not telling us the complete truth? What is it that is going on? Which of the two has it wrong? So as it happened, our kids, went to school, and then we started kind of like meeting friends through school. And we met a lot of friends who saw it happen, and they were doctors. Some of them were actually even immunologists. And we naturally started asking questions. We're like, guys, what's going on? Why in Sweden things are so different from everywhere else in the world? How come? And so we got into kind of like very deep discussions, and they were saying also how perplexed they have been about how kind of certain countries have chosen to deal with the outbreak, and how they were also perplexed about the way that it was recommended to them to treat individuals. And I specifically remember them saying to us, everything we knew about immunology has been wiped out with this sickness. Yeah. Everything that we know about immunity, all this the basics that we were learning in university has been wiped out and just doesn't make sense. So to cut a very long story short, that made us think with my husband. And, we increasingly found ourselves here, but as well kind of back in my home country in Greece, quite kind of like isolated. We started noticing that, the society slightly is, getting divided more and more, and is getting divided between the people who kind of accepted the recommended therapy, in lack of a better word, versus those who did not accept to take what was the recommended therapy at the time.
Yeah.
And we thought, hold on a second, there is a massive division. If there is something that is going on, if we're being kind of withheld the truth. This is not the time to be divided. This is the time to be united. And we also started noticing that there are a number of other ways that we kind of like being divided. We started noticing that kind of, you know, the structure of the family is getting weakened. People are being, you know, more and more divided kind of in terms of kind of like race, ethnicity, what do you believe versus what you don't believe, who do you vote versus who somebody else votes, in more ways than one. So my husband at the time, you know, he had an idea and he said, you know, I'm going to make an app. I'm going to make an app because I want to kind of bring together these people who think similar like us. So what does this mean? It means people who still have kind of conservative values, the people who still value the importance of the family as an important unit within the society that needs to stay together and needs to stay connected. People who still, because of their traditional values, support the idea of two genders. XX chromosome, XY chromosome.
Sophia, are you, I mean, do you think it's like been a deliberate sort of divide and conquer situation here? Or do you just think Sweden handled the you know, the pandemic in a different way, maybe encouraging people to take certain action to prevent them from getting the lurgy, but not forcing them or mandating it, or, you know, really encouraging people? Do you think there's something going on behind the scenes, or it's just a way that Sweden felt differently? I mean, I don't know what the uptake was ultimately for Sweden, for people that did take the you know, the thing,
the intervention. The uptake has been quite high in Sweden. So 75% of the population accepted the recommended treatment.
How many?
75% of the population accepted the recommended treatment. And I think this is because Sweden has a culture in general of not questioning what authorities tell them. They have this kind of like very naive, if you like, view of the world compared to people from the South, the Greeks, the Italians, the Spanish, who tend to be kind of question more kind of what authority tells them. So they have this view that, well, if my government is telling me this, it is for my own good, so I need to comply. There was also a very big campaign here of being told that the people who didn't accept that specific treatment were not educated enough, so they couldn't understand the value of it. But the people who accepted it, they were kind of a better kind of like socioeconomic background. So they kind of put a little bit of indirect pressure on people by kind of like shaming them and making them feel, well, if you don't accept this treatment, it means because you're not educated and you don't know any better. To your point of whether that has been an intentional, whether it has been intentional to kind of conquer and divide, I think so. I think it has been intentional because we see this kind of effort to divide people, like I said earlier on, in more ways than one. People are divided medically, politically. They're divided now in terms of race, gender, religion. We are, I think this is one of the few times in history that we are more divided than ever instead of more united than ever.
I think you're right. I think it is a case of separation. It's kind of like a conscious effort that's taking place to break down the family unit, because when we went through the pandemic, even the division of the young and the old, you know, in our country, in the UK, you were seeing sort of pictures of don't kill your granny. So separating the grandchildren from the grandparents, again, another division. And the fear that must have created in both aspects of the family, the polarity, the fear for the grandchild, the young person and the older person. So yeah, it's another division. And we've known it through the years, haven't we, through racism and so many isms. I mean, isms is a bit scary. There are so many, but it is a case of breaking down the family unit. Can I also just ask what your background is? I mean, you're not from a medical background, are you? You're from a financial?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Neither me nor my husband come from a medical background. We have both been in business and finance for more than 20 years. And I think that's why we kind of decided to create this app, because we weren't looking for an app that will kind of make us money. We're just doing this app because we kind of felt, this is our way to provide service to society.
Yeah,
we need to connect these people who are currently being divided. We need to connect them. And through the app, we connect them through kind of a number of ways. The app has a social media element that is kind of completely free and uncensored, because the whole app, it doesn't have any investors, and it doesn't have monetizing and advertising. We fund everything by ourselves. So we decide whether this is going to be a truly free speech app or not. So we don't censor anyone. So the only rule on the app is you need to be respectful. And if you're respectful, you can choose to express your opinion. And me as a viewer, I can choose whether I like your opinion or not. And if I don't agree with what you say, I can simply not follow you. But because I disagree with you, it doesn't mean I need to censor you. So it's completely uncensored in terms of social media. But the app has another kind of two aspects. Again, they aim to unite people. And one is kind of a dating platform that, like I said before, it targets that specific group of people who have kind of more conservative values, who value freedom, they are pro-choice, and they want to kind of be able to make their own choices in life, whether these are medical choice or financial choices or of all sorts. They believe in the family unit. They kind of value marriage. They value the importance of the family in society.
I think that's such a brilliant idea, brilliant concept, because I know the app isn't just about dating, because we'll go further into what it is.
Yes.
But whilst we're on that subject, dating apps are really very tricky anyway. I mean, I would love a new partner, because I just recently got divorced last year, and I'm not quite out there ready, but I know the time will come when I would like a new partner. And already I'm challenged because, like you say, you've got such a different sort of mindset. And I know what I don't want. Let's put it that way. I know what I don't want. And partly because of my age as well, but also because of what we've gone through. We have different belief systems. And I think I'm therefore restricted, especially as a female, because there's a lot of women out there that are separated, divorced, single, more women than men. I think we've killed off half the men through wars and what have you, one way or another. But so we're restricted anyway. And then when you do find a man that you're attracted to, you have to go through that. Have you taken that medical intervention?
Yes.
What do you believe? And you've lost them straight away because you're on such a different mindset. So there's definitely a need for this. But it's also linked to other thing. Sorry, I interrupted, but I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, and to your point, Karen, you're not alone on that. I have spoken to many friends, and my best friend, she's also single, and she's kind of like a lot like us. And she's saying exactly the same thing that you say. It is so awkward when you go on a date with someone, and then you have to ask those ideology questions, right? Have you, taken this medical intervention, or what do you think about having children, or what do you think about I don't know how many genders are out there. It's really, really awkward. But if you had to meet someone that right away that is on the same page with you, then you don't have to have that awkward discussion. And neither do you have to maybe go on 2 or 3 dates before you realize that you're in completely different pages with this other person.
Yeah,
and I think at our age, we just don't want to waste 3-4 dates just to find out, okay, that didn't go well.
Exactly. It's not like, I think the older, especially when you're in your 20s and it's all fun, and you're learning so much in life together. But I think for those of us that have this mindset, it's like very much a spiritual thing as well. It's because I think a lot of us have come through this spiritual awakening. And so when you are going to meet a partner, it's already, you think, oh, okay, we're on that same page, but on a spiritual level as well. And you don't have to go through all the questions. I mean, it's great. And prior to 2020, when all this occurred, I think we could have conversations about the weirdness that's going on in the world in every capacity, whether you're talking about the weather, or whether you talk about medication or spirituality or aeroplanes in the sky. You could have a bit of a laugh about it. But now, because of where we are, that we kind of speeding up the process a little bit, aren't we? There, you know, there's a lot to be done still, I think, to wake up, if I can say that, to make people aware of what's going on. But having these dating apps, you're going straight, it's a bullseye, straight to the point, and then you're already on that page, and you kind of can relax and move on to the next chapter.
It's absolutely spot on what you say, because I think, and I love Matrix, so I like using the kind of red pill, blue pill kind of analogy. Once you have taken the red pill, or once you have seen certain things, then it's suddenly impossible to not see them any longer. And it's suddenly impossible to keep accepting them or to kind of entertain conversations about things that you don't agree with any longer. Not in our age. It was different, like I said, when we were younger, when we were in our 20s. But now you just kind of, you want a partner, or you want a friend, or, you know, you want a companion that kind of is on the same page with you. We just don't have time to waste any longer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think companion is also really key in this, because if you've had your kids and stuff, you know, it doesn't have to be a sexual union. It can just be somebody that, you know, of the opposite sex. I don't know if your app is encouraging same sex. We can come back to that in a minute, because I know you well, let's talk about that in a second. But the companionship, I think, is so important. There are so many lonely people out there. Again, particularly women, but I think there's men that I don't so much know about, because men don't talk about their emotions, whereas women, that's what we're known for, aren't we? We chat. Hence I set up the Wise Women Weekday, so we talk about everything, but that helps us to get it out there, to release the stress, the emotion, which obviously has physical effects on us if we keep holding it in. So there probably are men out there as well, but they're hiding behind the doors because they don't want to go to the pub anymore. They don't want to go to football, because again, for them it's hard to discuss, and it's hard for them to talk anyway. So I think, hopefully with this app, come out, men, wherever you are. There's women waiting
come
for
out
you.
and join my cosmos. Absolutely. And you know, it's not only the dating part, but I think, and I would like to see your opinion on that. I think during the last 2 or 3 years, because of this intentional drive to divide us, those of us who have felt who have taken more conservative views, who have maybe, you know, denied to take the recommended therapy, we have felt very much isolated. We have made to feel that we are the minority of the society, and we are outsiders, and we have felt very isolated, which is not true. It's quite a number of us out there. We are many. And the app is a great space to connect with these people as friends, also as a community, because everything about the app is about a community of like-minded people, spiritually awake, like you said. And it's a way, you know, to signal to people that you are not alone. It's a number of us here, and we do feel the same. We went through the same thought process. We went through the same kind of, nightmare that you went through. And we're all here. We're all together. Let's unite. Let's start talking to each other. We are not alone.
So why is this different to WhatsApp, Facebook, Telegram, all these other social media outlets? What's the difference? Is it because of the blood bank side of things?
Right. And that's the other thing that we didn't speak about. But just to answer your question briefly, it is different because, first of all, it's very niche in terms of the target audience. Same as we said with the dating, when you come into the app on the social media part also, you know that your audience is like-minded, like you, as talking about the topics that you speak about, you know, on your channel, talking about, you know, we are all into kind of like a more conservative group of people. So you know right away that this is a more conservative group of people, completely like-minded and awake. Also, like I mentioned earlier on, the platform is kind of privately funded, so we do not censor people. There is absolute freedom of speech, and if I don't like what you say, I don't have to follow you. But I will respect your opinion to say it. It is your right to speak freely, as is mine, but I don't need to agree with you. But the fact that I don't agree with you, it doesn't mean I need to get you censored. And the third pillar of the app that is, I think, is quite unique, is that it connects people who need unvaccinated blood with those who are willing to donate it globally. So it's pretty much like an Uber. You know, when you kind of need an Uber, you kind of put your location and you see what cars are around you. very much the same for people who might need unvaccinated blood. You kind of, you put in your specifications, and the geolocation spots other people. You get a notification, that this person needs blood. Are you willing to help? And we have users for that globally. So we have, users across all three elements of the platform. In Europe, in the US, we have people in the Middle East, we have people in Africa. So even though we haven't been live for that long, we only went live in September, we are slowly getting there.
Excellent, excellent. Well, as you know, I was talking to Dr. Tess Laurie yesterday of the World Council for Health, and I just mentioned about the blood and the blood bank for those people that wanted more pure blood that has had the jibby jab. And they have, I think on Monday, this coming Monday, the 29th of January, they have a talk, an online talk. Anybody can go to it, and it talks about safe blood. So safe blood as in, more pure, I guess, or cleaner. Yes. But she also wasn't too concerned about this, because she was saying in the greater scheme of things, there's not that many that do need blood transfusions. But I would argue, if you are the one person that does, you want to be able to have access to it. And I know there are people out there, because I just mentioned during my newsletter that went out earlier this week, and I've had responses from people asking about you, and they've been trying to Google you, and they just keep being taken to Greek restaurants, apparently.
Oh gosh,
so,
okay.
I don't know if you've got the website there, or I mean, we'll talk more in a second, but how can people find this app to start with?
Right, okay, so the app is available for Android and for iOS, just on the App Store or in Google Play. People can type in My KOSMOS, MYKOSMON. My KOSMOS. KOSMOS is a word that means universe. I think it's kind of like pretty much an international word, even though it has a Greek root.
And it's actually on the screen here as well. On the bottom, you've got
right.
It here.
Yes. People can see it on the screen. My KOSMOS, but people can also find us on Twitter, and our handle is My KOSMOS app.
Yeah. No dot app. Just at My KOSMOS app. I've taken out the dot.
Yes.
Okay, so that's how they can find you. That's excellent. So what else about this? So it's you've got the dating side, you've got the blood to find sort of pure blood, clean blood.
Yes. And the social media.
And on the social media, so people can chat.
Absolutely, and yes.
So you're planning to be worldwide. You've got sort of feet in each camp so far, in every country, or many countries. Where are you at the moment?
Yes, so now we have users from all around the world. We went live sometime in September, and we have users in the US. We have loads of users in Europe, in Africa, in Middle East. We have users in Asia. So we kind of like slowly spreading. We are gaining momentum, and we have kind of found a lot of support and a lot of response from a lot of people. But I think it's interesting what you mentioned before about the blood, and I listened to your conversation with Dr. Tess that you had the other day, and talking about not having enough demand for blood. I think there are 2 points that need to be made there. From our point of view, like I said, the app is a service to society. If we can help one person who needs blood, then for us, this is a success. We're not doing this to make money. So if we connect 2 people, one who's needing the blood and one who's willing to donate it, that in itself is a success. And I think we have seen so far a couple of instances where I think it was in Australia, where people have been refused treatment because they did not have the recommended therapy. Yes, correct. So if we can kind of like step in those cases, if the people know that we do exist and we can connect them and provide them blood, for us this is just a great success. We only want to be able to help one person, and that in itself is success. We've done our job, yes. But secondly, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Well, just so we don't come off the subject of blood, because it's so easy there's so much to chat. I always find that with these great conversations, you end up going somewhere else. But let's say I needed blood. So I go onto my KOSMOS app, and then I think, oh, there's somebody, I'm over on the Isle of Wight now in the UK. So I say, oh, there's somebody in Newport, or there isn't somebody on the Isle of Wight, that they're on the mainland. How do I get that blood? How have you've obviously thought about this? I mean, how does that work?
It's a lot like Uber. So if you need blood and I'm willing to donate it, so the system is going to match us based on our blood type. Our blood types need to be compatible. So you raise a request. I see that somebody who is compatible with my blood type needs a donation. And if I accept to donate, then I kind of say, yes, I accept, very much like an Uber, right? Yeah. And then our details connect. You as as a person who asks for the blood, you will see the contact details that I have on the tool, whether this is my telephone number or my email. So then from that point, you and I take it off the app. So then I call you or I email you and I say, you know what, I have a scheduled surgery on such and such date on this hospital, and I expect that I will need X. Can you please come? Or if there is an emergency, you always have, the next of kin, the emergency contact, who can raise an emergency alert through the app. And then, you can see in which hospital the person is, and you can kind of go there directly and donate.
So this really is a case of being in service, isn't it? Because if I'm just walking along the beach and I look at my phone and somebody says, oh, I need blood, I might think, no, it's a nice day, I'm going to carry on with my walk. Or you might think, hang on a minute, a fellow human being here needs help, so I've got to do it. So there's a lot of trust here. This is really taking it to the next level. I think it's excellent. But I guess also, I mean, I used to donate my blood before all this hoo-ha. Again, it was just you get a letter from the blood donors and saying, can you pop in, and it just became like a normal thing, like going to the dentist, or going, I don't know, to meet your friend for coffee. Thought, oh, it's blood donor day, and so hopefully this will be the same sort of thing and become more organized. Because can you store the blood? I think that's where I'm getting to. So this is like immediate, isn't it? It's like an emergency. Let's say donating the blood, where can it be stored, or have you not got to that level yet?
No, we don't have actual banks yet. Now we connect people who need it and those who are kind of willing to donate it. And then when it's a scheduled operation, they just go straight to the hospital on the day of the operation, and then the hospital handles that. But we had a number of investors, though, who do have contacted us, and they have shown an interest in creating actual blood banks in the US. But this is kind of like another project that is outside the app, and it's kind of a thing of its own. It's a huge project, as you can imagine.
But again, we do need to build our new society. That's exactly as Tessa's done.
Absolutely.
With the Council for Health, and I know people are setting up other industries. But also, what about the element of the hospital not accepting the blood? Because I don't know if I've made this up in my mind, or I can see it potentially happening, or it has happened. But maybe certain doctors say, no, it's not come from our source of blood, even though the blood donor might be standing there. But they said, no, we're not. You're going to have the blood from this bag here, and there's nothing you can do about it. What about that? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I think there are two things to that. First of all, when blood goes into the hospital and needs to get tested, no matter who the donor is, right? You always test the blood in the hospital to make sure that it's not infected with, somebody might have HIV or something that might be transmissible. So all blood is tested, and it is acceptable in many places that you have a donor with you, like a family member. If you have an operation and you know that it is a match, it is accepted that you have a donor. But I think we have seen in the news also more and more lately a lot of talk about what happens with vaccinated blood. And we have also seen news articles that they talk about hospitals not anymore disallowing kind of unvaccinated blood, but actually moving towards that direction, that they start, talking about the differences of the two kinds of bloods. And if you think about it, and also going back to kind of a previous point that you made earlier on with Dr. Tess, we see more and more incidents of people dying because of the accepted therapy that happened over the last few years, right? we see that excess deaths have kind of like skyrocketed. We see turbo cancers coming back. We see kind of myocarditis, and people at such a young age, even kind of really fit sports people, just dropping dead because of heart issues. So we see a number of issues that they are a good indication that in the future there will be a bigger drive towards unvaccinated blood because of all those symptoms, because of all those illnesses that we see. And this is only the beginning. We have been only a couple of years post-pandemic, right? And even in such a short period of time, we can see so many signals that something isn't wrong. Something isn't right with the therapy.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it's called SADS, isn't it? Sudden Adult Death Syndrome. And I think the media have exploited that again, saying if you've got out of the bed the wrong side, that's why you've dropped down dead suddenly. Whereas people are hopefully beginning to join the dots up, especially for the young people. I mean, I get emails regularly from gosh, I can't remember his name, a chap that sends them over from America, and he just scouts the whole of the world with photographs of all these people that have just dropped down, dead suddenly. So yeah, it's wonderful what you're doing, and it is grassroots. So it will take a while to get where it needs to go. And again, if you're working with the correct intention from the heart and love, unconditional love, I'm sure it will go where it's meant to go. But I just want to go back. You said investors, because I know you're not taking, it's not a monetary thing here. It's not to get rich and famous, which again, going into our new earth is very important. I think anybody walking this path less traveled needs to come from a place of love and divineness and spirituality, rather than the old world that we're leaving behind of greed and corporations, and I want to get rich and have a bigger car than you. So, but you mentioned investors. So some people might say, oh, what sort of investors? What? Tell me a little bit about your investors. You don't have to be personal, but where are they coming from, and what are they expecting in return, or are they not?
So we don't have investors on the platform. Everything we have done is self-funded. We have a few people who have really liked what we do, and they donated to the app, so that they became donors. I really support what you're doing. I really want
financially or financially they donated.
Financially, they became financial donors. Yes, sorry. Yes, of course.
Okay.
I can see how this can be confusing. No. So the app is kind of self-funded. We have no investors whatsoever. But like I said, we had a few people who really liked the project, and they could see why we do it, and they were kind of on the same page with us in terms of thinking, and they said, I really want to donate financially towards growing that app. And of course, this is great to see that, because for us, it just shows us that what we're doing actually, resonates with people. And this is as important to us as seeing kind of people signing in for the app and signing up and downloading the app. It just makes us so happy. But what I mentioned before about investors, we had a few people who kind of approached us, and that's kind of where the investment comes, to build the blood banks. So those investors came in and said, we like what you do with the app, but we see this becoming bigger, and we want to kind of think about blood banks in kind of certain locations, and we would like to discuss about joining forces with you.
And these people, so they want to take it up to the next level. So, I mean, how can you be sure that these people are also on the same page, that are doing it from the right place, rather than, other intentions? Or are you just trusting here?
No, I think you need to go a little bit further than trust, right? And for us, like I said before, we're not doing this for money. So we're not keen to jump into any venture unless we're absolutely certain that the person who's on the other side is on the same page with us, spiritually and in terms of beliefs. So we're not in a rush to jump into anything. We will only kind of work with someone when we are certain that we are on the same page.
Excellent. I think well, I'm very grateful for what you're doing. Touch wood. I don't think there's any wood, as I'm on the floor. There you go. I won't be needing it, but I do know of people that do need it. And I know when I gave birth many years ago, there was a possibility of, because I had to have an emergency cesarean, and they were saying, well, blood transfusion. And in my mind then, there was the AIDS, the fear of AIDS, you know, and all that kind of stuff going through the blood. So, but I wasn't that fearful. I just had that awareness of it. And luckily I didn't have the blood transfusion. But it is a massive thing, isn't it? Bringing in not just a physical, tangible thing of blood, but if you think about what blood represents, I mean, it's taken everything around our body. It's a liquid. You know, we're all connected. If you think of the work done by Yasuru Emoto, the fact that we are all water and plasma and blood, and I mean, I can go on and on. I'm not the scientist here, but the importance of blood is well, it's our life force. I'll leave it there. But and it's wonderful what you're doing. So I'm very grateful. I had something else I was going to ask you, and I've forgotten. Yes, now I remember. So your background as bankers, your husband and yourself, your background as being in banking. Have you noticed anything changing in the banking world? Has that sort of spurred you on to do stuff, or is that normal?
You know, I think we noticed overall across kind of all the people that we interact with, kind of how can I say that? A movement towards needing more answers.
Yeah.
And kind of a drive towards kind of becoming more spiritual and not accepting things at face value. And, you know, banking and finance are not traditionally those areas that you would find this kind of people, where you would find more spiritual people. Of course, you do find people everywhere, but, you know, I mean, banking is banking, right? But we see this movement everywhere with people kind of like becoming more spiritual, people, you know, wanting to know more, people questioning more things. So we definitely have seen the change there.
And again, you don't have to answer this question, but because you are in finance, I know you said finance, I just assumed banking. Is it an industry you will stay in because of the topsy-turviness of the world? The world is being turned upside down. Do you think there's stability in our current financial system?
I don't know if anybody nowadays can say that X industry or Y industry has stability, right? I think each and every one of us is dispensable and at a very short notice. I think for my husband and I, this is the area that kind of we've known forever. We kind of like invested 20 years in this area, and this is kind of like our bread and butter. This is what we understand.
Yeah.
But both him and I, we always said, you know, this is what we do and this is our day job, but this is not our passion. This is not kind of like where we see ourselves. This is not where we want to retire. We do this because we know this, and this pays the bills. And this is great. And, you know, we both work with nice people. So kind of we enjoy what we do to an extent. But this is not our passion. Our passion is, you know, kind of creating this app and kind of doing something that is service to humanity.
More vocational. I think there's many of us that as we transition into our new earth, into a new paradigm, we have one foot in the matrix, because that's what we have been brought up to, whether we believe it or not, but that's the existence that we have. We have to pay our bills and do whatever. And then the other foot's in this new paradigm that we are all creating. So we're going through this transition. I think it's happening very quickly. It's also interesting now living in a country that I believe is cashless. Is that correct? Do you have any cash over there?
Yes, it is pretty much a cashless society, which was very interesting for us when we first moved here, because we were used to the US, where we would kind of use cash pretty much every day. Even for the children's allowance, we would, you know, have cents and dollars that we would kind of hand out, and it was easy for them to see how much they had in terms of allowance. But when we came here, a year went by and we didn't know what the Swedish notes look like. And it's a completely cashless society. So everything is kind of done via card or with kind of like online payments. You just don't see cash. And many of the stores actually do not accept cash. So even if you do go with cash, they don't accept it. But I read in the papers recently that the new government has been promoting the return to cash.
Oh, that's very good.
They've been saying that, you know, cash is good. You kind of like, it's people need to have the choice, basically. They've been saying that people need to have a choice, and they're encouraging businesses to slowly start accepting cash. And if I'm not mistaken, it's
the government is saying that.
Yes, it is perfect. And if I'm not mistaken, I saw an article online, which I hope I have not kind of misinterpreted, because my Swedish isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But they were also saying that it's good to start using cash again, or to kind of have this access to cash and have cash circulating in the society. Because if you're a completely kind of digitalized society, if something happens and kind of the system goes down, you still need to be able to function. You still need to be able to go to the grocery store and buy your potatoes and your milk, right? And you can't do that if you're a completely cashless society. So I think it's certainly the right direction. I mean,
I think so. That surprises me, but in a good way. Because we have a saying over here that cash is king, and we're doing our utmost to keep it alive. Because, like you say, you can't give the children their allowance, their pocket money. You can't give money to the homeless, but also you can't spend money without anybody knowing what you're doing. And if you think what happened in Canada, how when he stopped the banks, he stopped the banks paying all the truckers or something?
yes.
I can't remember. He
He
stopped the
blocked the
bank
accounts.
Yeah,
Yes.
all the truckers couldn't have access to their banks, which is an indication as to what could potentially happen if we don't have cash. And then suddenly, if we've not been such a good girl or good boy, the bank says, no, I'm not going to allow that card, that transaction go through, either by your credit card or your debit card or your wrist or your phone, whatever, But if you've got cash, nobody can stop you. So there's a huge amount of freedom, although it is a nuisance at times. And the coins that we had, the silly little coins, which are such a nuisance. But now I have loads of them.
Yes.
Because I keep it alive, and I thought I'm going to take that extra time to put money in the parking meter. And it's great also because if the parking meter doesn't work, you could say, well, it's broken, so you don't have to pay for your ticket. But otherwise, yeah. And it was great. Ours was broken for months, and the freedom, you could just pull up, park, and go off for the, instead of thinking, oh, I've got to get back in an hour because I'm going to run out of my parking ticket. And they just assume, download the parking app to pay for your parking thing. And I won't do that. I say, no, I haven't got a phone. I haven't got my phone on me, or you pay for me to have the phone. Give me the phone, then maybe I'll do it. But don't assume I'm going to use my belongings to pay for, a piece of land to put my car on, which, anyway, I won't go down that. That's a conversation for another day.
For another topic, yes. But interestingly enough, I don't know if you heard, it was yesterday that a Canadian court overruled the government's decision to block the trackers' accounts.
I saw it.
Did you see that? I think this is kind of
it was illegal. It was illegal.
Yes, it was illegal to claim emergency powers. The court said such emergency powers, they only need to be used in times of war. And I think they had only used in the past, only once. And that was kind of during one of the wars. And the court said that it wasn't justified. So this is a big step towards freedom, right? And governments not overstepping their boundaries.
That's absolutely right. One person's decision, it's just absolutely appalling. And I think this is what needs to crumble. It is crumbling slowly. Well, I say maybe not slowly, probably quite rapidly. I think the House of Cards is falling quite rapidly, as it needs to, because we've got dictators here, haven't we? We're living in tyranny. What they're trying to do without our agreement, and we're sovereign beings, and we are supposed to just get on with our lives as long as we don't harm anybody and we're just kind. There's sovereign law, natural law of equity, and it's been removed as we're in this corporate law. Again, a conversation for another day, but it's all linked, from money, to blood, to spirituality, to car parking. The whole lot is linked, connected to nature. And I always say it's very exciting times to be here, because I think it is, as we're going through a transition, and wonderful entrepreneurs like yourselves are coming through, but not to get rich and famous, but to serve humanity. And it's just wonderful. So, thank you. As we close, Sophia, is there anything else to say? I've just got a few notes here. I know we were going to talk about gratitude. Was there anything that you would like to say about gratitude or blood or?
You know what, I just wanted to pick on one point that you made, and you said just now that it's a very exciting time to be here. I was watching Lord of the Rings the other day, the first movie, and I hadn't watched it for a year. And it's a part where kind of like Frodo realizes that he needs to take the ring to kind of this very dark place. And he says to Gandalf, I wish it hadn't happened in my time. And Gandalf was so wise to respond back, and he says, many people wish the same, or something into those words, right? A kind of like, he said something to the meaning of, many people wish that, it didn't happen in our times, but this is not for us to decide. What it is for us to decide is what to do with the time that has been given to us. And I think this is so wise and is so true to today. We are going through difficult times. We are going through, I think, a pivotal point in history. We do face a lot of adversity, whether this is, socially or economically, financially, with the cost of living going up. But at the same time, this is exciting time to live in, because this is our chance to make a mark in history. And this is the time for us to decide, what are we going to do with the time that is given to us? We can sit back and blame the crisis, or, the politicians, or the bad financial decisions, or we can do something about it.
I think you're spot on again. I'm just looking for a quote as I was listening to what you said, and it is our time to do something. And as I was chatting to Tess yesterday, she was trying to remember a quote from Voltaire, and her quote was, can't find it now. I did put it in there. Oh, those who can make, so this isn't what we're talking about, but her quote first was, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities, which is what's just kind of gone on. The ridiculous thing that they made us do about, sit down at your dinner table because you might get ill if you stand up, and all that sort of stuff. That's what she was referring to. But whilst I was looking for that quote to get it, verbatim, word for word, I found one also by Voltaire, which said, every man is guilty of all the good he did not do.
Yes.
Every man is guilty of all the good he did not do. And I think that is quite a profound statement, because those of us that know what's going on, but are choosing to ignore it, it doesn't sit well with me.
Absolutely.
We know something's going on. We're here for a purpose. And in our country, again, they're talking, the newspapers are going on about conscription, bringing our young men into the army, which makes me laugh, because it ain't going to happen. The way they've treated, us and what they're doing, as we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, dividing the family and all the isms. And now they're saying, oh, come on, we're going to bring you into the army. We're going to conscribe you, and you're going to go and fight a war that you don't believe in. I don't think so. But it's kind of a sign of the times, of how desperate the situation is for those at the powers that are trying to still continue to control us. And therefore, we need to say, no, I'm not going to do it, as the Voltaire statement says. And people
Absolutely.
must realize, I don't want to send my son or my husband to war. So they know it's for, so now step up. Everybody needs to step up. If you know what's going on, do something. Even just sign up to the My KOSMOS app, And yes, as my dog joins me on the couch. Yeah, sorry, I go off on a rant. I always try and be a little bit quiet, but I'm a bit mouthy.
Not at all, not at all. And I think you're right on this. And kind of, I don't remember who said it, but I think someone, one or the other, said evil prevails when good people stand and
Absolutely.
do nothing, right? So this is exactly it. If we see something that is wrong, the least we can do is speak up about it.
Speak up. And there's enough of us speaking up now, so, many of us have been sticking our head above the parapet, and it's time to support those people, those that have been on the front line doing stuff. It's time to stand up and join them, really, and make our world a better place for our children, our grandchildren, but just for humanity,
Just for humanity.
It's our duty, isn't it? That's why we're here. That's how I see it.
Yes, absolutely. And like you and I were saying just before we got online, it's so easy to kind of get sucked into all the kind of negative things that are happening around us, right? There is so much darkness. People are stressed financially, people feel isolated. There's so much kind of division, war, what have you. So it's so easy to get sucked into this negativity. But like you and I were saying, it's so important also to remember to be grateful for what we have.
Absolutely.
We have a roof above our heads, we have food on our table, we are healthy, we have our loved ones around us. It's just so important to just remember that and be grateful, because that takes us a little bit out of that darkness.
Definitely.
Puts the lights into our life.
And yeah, because when we started filming, I asked you just to move from the light, which was a hypocritical really, but the light behind you was so bright. I just said, shift, because we can't see you for the light behind you, but we need to bring in the light. And when we are challenged, I mean, I think I said to you as well, and this chat beforehand, there's 4 people that are kind of once removed from me, so they're not my immediate friends, but it's friends of or friends of my family. 4 people that have died recently, either naturally or they've taken their own lives. And of course,
Oh
it's
no.
devastated my friends and my family. I'm one removed, but I can see the impact that that has. And it can bring you down. So whether it's a loss of a loved one or a friend, that's enough to you know, really take you down into the doldrums. But also I have friends that are really struggling to put the bread and butter on the table, really struggling. So we're all being challenged, and therefore I think the gratitude we have for the sun that, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm really hot sitting here in the sun, but I'm so grateful for it, because we've just gone
Yes.
through a freezing temperature, which you know, we don't have that often in the UK. It's so important, the gratitude for everything that we have, and the people that we did have in our lives that have gone. But if we're still here, try and, you know, pick ourselves up somehow, go into the spiritual side, go into the meditation, you know, go and connect with your higher self. There's a lot out there that can help you, and be in community, you know, talk to each other, talk to like-minded people that know where you're at, to get the support that you need, because that's what it is. It's about supporting and being kind and loving each other, which is really hard sometimes, because you might not like them, but you've got to love them.
Absolutely. And I think now more than ever before, particularly because we went through a period where we all had to kind of stay away from each other, you know, and kind of stay in our own homes. Now more than ever is a reason for us to actually get out of our comfort zone and kind of reach out to those people, like you said, that we know that they are struggling. And sometimes it's difficult to do that. It's difficult because you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to kind of like approach the situation. But if we all stand back and we do nothing, nothing is going to change. So when we know that there are people who are in need, when people need emotional support, if nothing else, it's so important to reach out to the people and say, you know, I'm here, and kind of enhance this community.
Talk to strangers. I was with a friend. We were going for, we do cold sea swimming when the sea's flat. And I was about to go swimming with a friend the other day, and we were just looking at this elderly gentleman, and he'd climbed over to the edge of the pier. He'd climbed over the railings. He was in his 70s, and he just had his back to us, and we just looked. I thought, oh, it's like a moment from Titanic, you know, when they're. So we just remarked, and that's it. Then in the end, we got chatting to him. I just started chatting because I can chat to everybody and anybody. And he said, I was just talking to my wife because I just lost her through cancer.
Oh no.
And so you could go down that conversation of, you know, super spreading and all that kind of stuff. Or I said, can I just give you a hug? And he said, if you want. And he clung on to me for dear life.
Yes.
Total stranger. And then we had a 5-minute chat and went separate ways. And maybe that's all he needed.
Yes.
You know, I'm a bit of a huggy person anyway. But what they have just done over this last pandemic is separated us and put that fear, like, don't touch anybody, you know. I had a massage once during the pandemic, and she wore plastic gloves, and I said, forget it. What's the point? You to be massaging skin on skin to feel that connection, and you know, and she had these bloody, like I was a slab of meat in the butcher's. So again, her fear because she didn't want to get anything from me. So we've had this drilled into us about being separate. Now we need to come together.
Yes, now we need to come together now more than ever before. I agree.
Yeah, I'm in the UK, so I think we should end there, because I try and keep it under the hour, and I think it probably is about an hour. So unless there's anything you want to finish saying, Sophia, on the last note, or you done?
I am done. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all the work that you're doing through your channel. You're doing amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to grow it. You know, it's, I think 3 months and we've got 550 subscribers, which isn't bad. But I send it out in my newsletters, and I put it on the Telegram groups and other means. So yeah, if anybody here is watching, please do like the channel, Wise Women Weekdays, subscribe to the channel. And if you have any comments, either for myself or Sophia, or you want us to talk about anything, we can bring the guests on. That's not a problem. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one. And thank you, Sophia.
Thank you.